when it comes to what the research says about age and second language learners and my own experience, it was actually surprising to me what I read, especially when it talks about the critical period hypothesis, because I watched my 2-year-old niece and how fast she picks up language, like how it almost seemed with her learning English, it was something that happened fast. Like 1 minute she's not talking, or she's just making basic sounds, and then the next she's using words, and then she's doing basic sentences. But then I watch the kids that are the same age as her that I teach English to in China, and some of them, they pick it up right away, their first lesson. They start making the sounds, other ones are more shy, and you kind of have to like coax them to start talking. And I've only had a couple of adult lessons, and mostly with the adults, I find it easier to have a conversation with them, and that their English is more broken, and that they just need the practice with it compared to the kids are learning the basics, the ABCs, the how to write a sentence, the basics of everything like that. And sometimes it's harder to ask them a question because they don't always answer the question. They'll repeat it. I think the Patricia Cole video, the TED Talk video, is interesting because it does show scientifically that there is a critical period for kids to learn language as babies, but it also shows that an adult's brain can still remain flexible enough that it can still learn language, that it's not impossible, but that it's possible, but it will be harder. And I think the Myth Slam 1 chapter was very important because it really opened my eyes about how the exposure of language, like how long someone is exposed to it, also plays a factor, and not just age. Like kids, they go into school and they start learning the basics, but like the adults, that if the adults are exposed more, they could still learn the language the way a child does, and learn to not have an accent, to learn to pick it up like they're native. But that the exposure is important, that the longer the exposure is better, and children have longer exposure, which is why we may think that they do better in learning a second language. Because like if it's a child who's comes here at 2 years old compared to an adult who comes here at 30, that child is going to be exposed from the time they're 2 to the time they're 30 in learning this new language. The statistics in the TED Talk was very interesting to me, mostly because I kept thinking about statistics and numbers, and thinking, how do kids take statistics of the languages they're hearing? But I kept thinking, because they hear the sounds, they hear, like when they're babies and we're talking to them, they hear the different sounds, the different languages, like, you know, when we say hello to them, or hola, like they hear. And I think even though they're babies, they can differentiate the difference between that, and they're picking up both of those languages. The thing I found interesting was about the research that said that the kids need human interaction in order to learn a language. Like now with YouTube, there's a lot of cartoons. There's a lot of British cartoons that American kids can watch. Like my niece, she watches Peppa Pig, and she watches another one, and I think it's funny because she's kind of picked up the whole going on a holiday, and she says it like a British, like with a British accent, or saying woho because one of the characters said it. But yet at the same time, I wonder if the human interaction falls into. I was with her when I watched that video, and I explained to her that rojo means red because she's 2, so she was like, "Oh, red rojo." Compared to like if the kid's just watching this video and they're not, someone doesn't actually explain to them that, oh, that's what that word means. I've also noticed that when I'm teaching the kids online, sometimes videos help them more. Like when we're learning the basic letters and the basic sounds, I'll say, A is ah, and some of them will pick it up right away. They'll get really excited and they'll be like, A is ah. But I had one kid who was really, really, really shy, and I was trying to get him to sing the ABCs, and he did not want to sing the ABCs. Like, I was singing it, and I was trying to make it fun, he did not want to sing it, and he did not want to interact. And so I only have 25 minutes, and so then I found a YouTube video, and it was ABC Mouse, and they were doing the ABCs, and I played it for him, and it goes like A, apple, B, and it was like a song. And at first he was just like staring. I showed the YouTube video from my phone. So we're not allowed to send them YouTube videos to China because they're illegal. So I showed it to him on my phone. And at first he was just like staring at it, and I was singing along with the YouTube video, and then all of a sudden I hear him going, he was saying letters and the words. And what I liked about the ABC Mouse is they have a song for each separate letter. So when I'm learning, okay, the next week I had to learn B. So it is B, and it sings songs with different words, and he starts singing the words instead of me just saying them to them. So I noticed that difference. So I think the way this affects us, the research affects us as a teacher, that we should keep an open mind that adults and children aren't the same, but also that even within children aren't the same, because what's going to work for one child may not work for another one. Some child are okay with just a sing-song voice of A is ah, or with clapping. Other ones, they need a little more stimulation, or some of them. I've had some of them where before I can even speak, they're already like, hey, it's ah, like they do it faster. So it's just, you have to keep an open mind that what may work for one child may not work for another child. And I think that's the thing with children and adults, because it's different for a 2-year-old coming into this country, and people are going to react to them differently. People are going to be more patient with them because they're 2, compared to if you're 30 years old and you need to get a job right away and you need to start working, and most people are going to expect you to know it and stuff, and expect you to know the language, to do the work, you're going to have to learn it faster, but you're not going to have the same exposure, the same experience that children.